show that all the witnesses answered in the affirmative. Remain seated.
Every person watching this knows that we need to meet with Mr. Grush in a secure, compartmentalized facility so that we can get fulsome answers that do not put him in jeopardy and that give us the information we need.
That statement was from Representative Matt Gaetz at the 26 July UAP hearings in DeSci. I was actually there. It was amazing. The hearing was quite an event. It was emotional. You could feel the passion in there. Biggest impression I got was the Congress is motivated, is really motivated. So today we'll go through Matt Gaetz, his questioning. I thought it was just amazing. Chris Lado, welcome to Lado Files. Thank you so much for being here. Please smash that like button, share, and subscribe to get notifications of my future videos. I take no sponsors and only supported by the community. You can find the link in the description or go to patreon.com/Chris Lado to support. Thanks again. Let's get to the video.
Several months ago, my office received a protected disclosure from Eglin Air Force Base indicating that there was a UAP incident that required my attention. I sought a briefing regarding that episode and brought with me Congressman Burchett and Congresswoman Luna. We asked to see any of the evidence that had been taken by flight crew in this endeavor and to observe any radar signature as well as to meet with the flight crew. We were not afforded access to all of the flight crew. And initially, we were not afforded access to images and to radar. Thereafter, we had a bit of a discussion about how authorities flow in the United States of America, and we did see the image. And we did meet with one member of the flight crew who took the image. The image was of something that I am not able to attach to any human capability, either from the United States or from any of our adversaries. And I'm somewhat informed on the matter, having served on the Armed Services Committee for 7 years, having served on the committee that oversees DARPA and advanced technologies for several years.
Okay, so that is Matt Gaetz from Florida. And he's talking about an event that happened at Eglin Air Force Base, basically the week prior to the hearing. The Friday before the hearing, Representative Luna, Burchett, Moskowitz, and Burleson had a conference relaying how the general of Eglin denied them access to this case that Representative Gaetz is talking about, denied them access. And he talks there as we had a little discussion about how the actual orders are supposed to flow in America, and he got to see the actual image. From what I understand, it was only Representative Gaetz that saw it. He goes on to portray here. But this is talking about a UAP whistleblower from a few months before. And the case that Gaetz is actually talking about, he shared on his Twitter. Okay, so this is a tweet basically right the night after the hearing. So Wednesday night, 26 July, this was from Representative Matt Gaetz. Several months ago, my office received a protected disclosure from Eglin Air Force Base indicating there was a UAP incident that required my attention. They mentioned this protected disclosure, and it came up quite a few times on the hearing. Ryan Graves' main point is that there is no way to report. There's not even a good way or a bad way. There's literally no way. So what are you talking about? There's no way to even report these things. And that came up. Matt continues, I sought a briefing regarding that episode and brought Representative Tim Burchett and Representative Luna with me. We were initially denied access to the images, radar, and conversation with all members of the flight crew. After demanding access, the information was exclusively shown to me, and I was able to speak with one member of the flight crew who took the photo. So he wasn't able to see with all members of the flight crew. The image was of a UAP that I'm not able to attach to any human capability, either from the United States or from any of our adversaries. He goes on to say he has 7 years on the Armed Services Committee, so he has some experience. The pilot said he encountered a fleet of UAPs in diamond formation over the Gulf of Mexico, which was confirmed on radar that I reviewed. What I hear in this is 4 UAPs and then visually an orb, he said. He said approaching the UAPs, this is to the pilot, caused video and other aircraft security features to malfunction. Interesting. He saw what I can only describe as an orb, not of any human capability that I'm aware of, unless we have orb capability. And this, from July 26, the day of the hearing, has 568,000 views, man. Amazing. So you can Again, decentralized information and media.
Thereafter, we had a bit of a discussion about how authorities flow in the United States of America, and we did see the image. And we did meet with one member of the flight crew who took the image. The image was of something that I am not able to attach to any human capability, either from the United States or from any of our adversaries. And I'm somewhat informed on the matter, having served on the Armed Services Committee for 7 years, having served on the committee that oversees DARPA and advanced technologies for several years. When we spoke with the flight crew, and when he showed us the photo that he'd taken, I asked why the video wasn't engaged, why we didn't have a FLIR system that worked. Here's what he said. They were out on a test mission that day over the Gulf of Mexico. And when you're on a test mission, you're supposed to have clear airspace. Not supposed to be anything that shows up. And they saw a sequence of 4 craft in a clear diamond formation for which there is a radar sequence that I alone have observed in the United States Congress. One of the pilots goes to check out that diamond formation and sees a large floating, what I can only describe as an orb. Again, like I said, not of any human capability that I'm aware of. And when he approached, he said that his radar went down. He said that his FLIR system malfunctioned and that he had to manually take this image from one of the lenses, and it was not automated in collection as you would typically see in a test mission. So I guess I'll start with Commander Fravor. How should we think about the fact that this craft that was approached by our pilot had the capability of disarming a number of the sensor and collection systems on that craft?
Well, I think this goes to that national security side, and you can go back through history of things showing up at certain areas and disabling our capabilities, which is disheartening. And for us, I mean, like I said, it completely disabled the radar on the aircraft when it tried to do it, and the only way we could see it is passively, which is how he got that image. So I think that's a concern on what are these doing, not only how do they operate, but their capabilities inside to do things like this.
So a couple interesting points there. The first point is that, Congress members have experience. They have secret clearances. He obviously has a top secret clearance where he couldn't have gotten into that, into the vault to basically watch the tapes. There were no tapes to actually see the photo. So they do seem briefed and knowledgeable on the topic. That's great to see. Second thing is when he's talking about the diamond formation, this to me sounds like he's looking at actual radar hits. So from an overhead view, seeing a diamond, 4 craft in a diamond formation seems like radar data to me. And then as he's approaching the aircraft, we still don't know what aircraft it is. So Eglin is a test base. They have many different types of aircraft, F-16s, F-22s, F-35s. Sure, they have all those types of aircraft. And this sounds like he has a radar lock, which is normally how you do an intercept. Okay, you're going to lock up the aircraft. You're going to find them with your radar. You're going to lock them up at many miles. Okay, it could be, who knows, 20, 30 miles in the airspace. These airspace can be out to 50 miles. They saw this diamond formation on their radar. They went to check it out, see what it was. And as they get close, the radar malfunctions. I mentioned on a CNN interview that this hasn't happened to me when they talked about shutting down, but you can have your radar jammed, obviously. So if a radar is jammed by electronic jamming, active jamming, normally the radars do see that. So they would have an indication of active jamming. The fact it just shut down is really strange to me. If it did in fact turn off, that would be the big question. And then in that instance, the way it worked in the F-16 is the targeting pod, the FLIR, he calls it here. And again, was it an F-35? Because they have FLIR, not a targeting pod. So I'm not sure. Either way, if there's no radar giving line of sight information to the FLIR, to the targeting pod, then you would have to manually lock it. And that's how we've seen all the other manual locks that I know about anyway, is that they were not able to actually lock them actively, meaning to shine a flashlight with a radar at them. And that gives them the exact point out to the targeting pod. Talking to Captain Underwood, when he actually captured the FLIR as a weapons system officer in 2004, they were not able to get a long-term radar lock. They just got hits, right? Which is in a surge track, just putting out a little bit of energy. When you lock something is where you're actually shining a flashlight at it. And that's where normally the target knows you're locking onto it. Sounds like we're not able to lock onto these targets. Or did it shut down the radar? Did the radar physically turn off? That would be my question for the pilot. Either way, very interesting, because now as it gets closer, he confirms with his eyeballs that it's an actual real thing, right? And a glowing orb, a giant orb, he said. Calls it a giant orb. I don't know how you can... yeah, that is a crazy description. And that matches the gimbal objects that Ryan Graves said is actually a square, dark gray square inside of a sphere, 5 to 15 feet across, what he said. So it'd be great to hear the detailed extension. It sounds like they're going to get into a skiff in the future. So let's continue on.
How should we think about the fact that this craft that was approached by our pilot had the capability of disarming a number of the sensor and collection systems on that craft?
Well, I think this goes to that national security side, and you can go back through history of things showing up at certain areas and disabling our capabilities, which is disheartening. And for us, I mean, like I said, it completely disabled the radar on the aircraft when it tried to do it, and the only way we could see it is passively, which is how he got that image. So I think that's a concern on what are these doing, not only how do they operate, but their capabilities inside to do things like this.
So that was interesting. I'm actually sitting 4 seats directly behind. There was 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows behind Fravor at this point, and trying to take notes and pay attention to the live stream. If you notice these pop-ups, that's from the live stream. You can go back to my video. I went back and made chapters, so you can go and actually look for each one of the chapters. It was just amazing. I'm still going through it. Watched it a couple times now. What Fravor's talking about here is their radar approaching the Tic Tac. What I just talked about with Underwood, approaching the actual Tic Tac. In the targeting pod, you see 99.9 as the range. This is normally an indication, as Fravor says in his previous interviews, that is electronic attack, so jamming. Now, I was an electronic attack officer in the aggressors. That was my specialty, is looking at foreign electronic attack systems of the Russians and Chinese, etc. Radars, again, they will pick up something that they determines electronic attack, but it could just be dirty signals, basically messed up, interfered with signals. Is it planned electronic attack, I guess, is the question. And I'm not sure. My own impression is it feels like the jamming, the signals are definitely changed as they're bouncing off of the object. Are they changed on purpose? Unknown, but they're changed. We can at least prove that. And so he says here that when they tried to lock it with the radar, again, they were denied. But it didn't shut his radar off, from what I understand.
And how should we think about 4 craft moving in a very clear formation, equidistant from one another, in a diamond? In all of the phenomenon, perhaps, Mr. Grave, that you've analyzed, have we ever seen multiple craft in a single formation?
I have one particular case, and that was during the gimbal incident. The recording on the AT FLIR system shows a single object that rotates. You hear the pilots refer to a fleet of objects that is not visible on the FLIR system. And that was something that I witnessed during the debrief as part of the radar data on the situational awareness page. I would like to add, however, Congressman, there's a small bit of anger, I would say. I would feel that those pilots are still facing that difficulty in reporting this topic, and they don't have the tools to be able to mitigate this issue. It just goes to show how serious this is and why this is such an important issue for our pilots and for our nation.
It was stated explicitly to me by these test pilots that if you have a UAP experience, the best thing you can do for your career is forget it and not tell anyone. Because any type of reporting, either above the surface or below the surface, does have a perceived consequence to these people. And that is a culture we must change if we want to get to the truth.
That last point is probably the biggest point I took out of this hearing, was the whistleblowers are not being protected. David Grush mentioned he feared for his life. They asked him, do you fear for your life? He said, yes. And Ryan Graves said there's no way to even make reports. There's no way to make reports. So 100% need to protect the whistleblowers and figure out why they're not getting reports. It's always bureaucratic issues, right? The leaders don't want to do it. It comes from the top down. that you have to do this, there's always, always resistance. They're always going to drag their feet. By the way, they think it's stupid. They think it's ridiculous. How can they be asked to look into UAPs? Yeah, that's just going to make it even worse, right? The point should be for these people to speak up, to realize that it is a serious issue, to watch this hearing and to see that these people take it very seriously, because it's a very serious issue that gets to the heart of our democracy, the democracy in the world, essentially. I've been asked, what do I think is going to happen next? Is Congress still going to continue? And I think definitely this is what I think is and should happen next. Check it out here. He makes a great recommendation from Representative Gaetz.
Mr. Chairman, I would observe that perhaps as we move forward from this hearing, there are some obvious next steps. Every person watching this knows that we need to meet with Mr. Grush in a secure, compartmentalized facility so that we can get fulsome answers that do not put him in jeopardy and that give us the information we need. Second, I would suggest that the radar images that were collected of this formation of craft out of Eglin Air Force Base, and specifically the actual image taken by the actual flight crew that we can actually validate, be provided to the committee, subpoenaed if necessary, so that we're able to track how to get this type of reporting and analysis done in a more fulsome way. That would be my recommendation, humbly, as a guest here of the Fine Oversight Committee. I yield back.
Well, that's an amazing recommendation. Thanks so much to Matt Gaetz, Representative Gaetz. And really just being there, that was my biggest takeaway is, man, I'm impressed by the Congress. They seem motivated, really motivated. You can just see, it looks empty in there when you're looking at the hall, but you realize this was 2 hours and there is hundreds of people running around all the time, calling these Congress people. If you can imagine, they have, thousands of constituents, a lot of issues. And they took the time to come in and make their statements here, and they were prepared. Most of these questions were quite spot on. So I will be continuing to cover them in my future videos. Please smash the like button and subscribe. That'll tell you notifications when I release future videos, and I'll try and pump them out as fast as I can. Thanks everyone for all your support. Allow me to go to DC. I'm going to Turkey next week. I'm trying to investigate the Turkey UFO. If you look back in my older videos, one of my most popular videos is Turkey UFO. I've been saying for over a year and a half that I'm going to go. I actually spoke Turkish in the past. I spoke Turkish. It is pretty rusty right now. We're actually making a family trip, showing my son where he was born, along with the other family. We do miss Turkey. We haven't been back since the coup, actually. My squadron was in the coup. Yeah, it's a crazy story. We're going back, and I'm going to investigate the Turkey UFO. So I will be staying right down the street from the Kumburgaz Princess. I'll be staying right in that area. I'm going to try and find Mehmet Yalman. Going to go track him down, and we're going to put out a sign and start asking people if they've seen these crazy UFOs and try and get the video. So if you are in Turkey, if you're in Istanbul, you'll be in Istanbul from 3 to 12 August. Let me know on YouTube or email chris.lado16@gmail.com and let me know if you have UFO stories. I will be in Istanbul from 3 to 12 August. Excellent. Hope to make great videos from there, as well as future videos on the hearings. Amazing stuff. So much to unpack. So much additional information, I believe. So look out for it next. Thank you again to my patrons. Couldn't do it without you guys, and YouTube members. Thanks to everyone else for watching all the way to the end. Have a great day. Peace.